today I will be going over why we should care about the mental health of men during the process of an abortion. I'm going to go over 2 reasons it matters to me first before I break down the science behind it. So the first thing would be, over the past couple of years, I've heard and been involved in arguments over pro-life versus pro-choice and over like the laws and stuff behind it, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about something that never gets discussed, which is the men's mental health side of it. I never hear anything about this ever. It's always the women's mental health and pro-life versus pro-choice. So, to me, that matters. Why it matters, it comes down to the second reason. I had a coworker who got married, and for about 3 to 4 months, they were perfectly happy. After about that 3 to 4 month period, his wife got pregnant. About 2 months into that pregnancy, she got an abortion without telling him. It affected him hard. He came to work, and he was just a completely different person. This is a person who's normally like me, always upbeat, always happy, but he came to work like someone I've never seen. He didn't talk to anyone. He barely focused on his job, and he was a waiter, so even his customers noticed it. Eventually he figured out, obviously, it was from the abortion, and it killed the man. I'm like, over the next couple days, I constantly heard him get told, "Oh, you're a man, you should tough through it." I heard his customers say that behind his back, where I know for a fact he could still hear it. He eventually ended up quitting, and I don't know what happened to him. I hope he's okay. So that's what made me decide to choose this as a topic and go forward with this. Let's get behind a little science of this and explain what happens on this and why it's important to focus on this as well, and why this is an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to having this discussion in general. I got a couple quotes for y'all. In a 2016 article by CareNet explaining how abortion negatively affects men states, we know that he is in pain. We know he wants to overcome, but it's a lonely secret accompanied by repressed feelings. He doesn't think he's supposed to talk about the experience. He has fears and he has doubts. His capacity is diminished to be able to deal with it. He is suspicious of judgment by the people and friends around him. He reasons there are few options for healing, so he remains silent. And that last part hits home, because from another quote from the white paper in 2023, because there's a societal conversation surrounding abortion is primarily about women, men's grief is often disenfranchised. My bad, I had trouble saying words like that sometimes. Most men in the study done reflect that they are the pro-choice or pro-life have said that they don't know where to get help, and if they could have, they would have rather have it. So going over this, we can clearly see that men want help, especially during the abortion process. There's just very little opportunity for them to get it. There's very few places that offer it. In that graph, it showed that 51% of men wanted help and sought help, but never received help and never had an option to get the help they needed. Here's something else that ties into this. According to research done by Bradley Mates in Men and Abortion, more than 30 million men are struggling to cope with the loss of their children through abortion. Many participate in the decision to abort their children and assisted their partners in doing so. Several even pressured their partners into having an abortion. But men do not always recognize the symptoms they are experiencing as having roots in the abortion decision they made. But scratch the surface on some of these issues that you're seeing. Scratch the surface on some of these mental health, and you will see that they often may struggle to find commitments again. They may struggle to ever be emotionally present with their wives and other children they have. They struggle to make connections after this. They struggle to put effort forwards, even if they made to help make the decision. And that's because there's no help. There's no way for them to get the help. There's no way for most men to be willing to accept the help because they grew up hearing, you're a man, you gotta be strong. Men don't cry, men don't ask for help. And today we see where that's gotten us. That's gotten us to the point where men are afraid. They're afraid of getting judged by their fellow mates. They're afraid of getting judged by their classmates. They're afraid to cry. So, what the whole point of this was, is I want you to think, next time you have this conversation, about, yes, pro-life versus pro-choice. I get it. That's the primary conversation only. I get how it affects the women's side. That's a very important subject too. But it takes two to make a baby. So whenever you're discussing the women's mental health, make sure to also discuss the men's. As I said, it gets ignored all the time. And since it's ignored, there's no help and there's no awareness. This leads to suicides. This leads to depression. This leads to men just not wanting to be involved in their partners' or other children's lives. I know everyone's heard of a deadbeat dad. Stuff like this helps create deadbeat dads. Where a man, like I said, a man doesn't care about the other children because he's still grieving the other one. Grief's a 7-step process, and a lot of times when a man goes through an abortion, they get stuck on those levels. They get stuck on anger, and some of them never get past it, to the point where they end up going out and doing stupid stuff like assaulting their ex-partner or assaulting their children, which I will never defend assaulting the children or assaulting the wife in general, but or they go out, or they get stuck on the grief part and become depressed and kill themselves. I want to end this with one thing. Imagine you and your partner are in love. You find out you're pregnant, and you and him come to a mutual decision to have an abortion. You have the abortion. You come home one day to find your partner in a corner with a gun to his head, having an emotional breakdown, threatening to kill himself. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see that. No one wants to experience that. So I'm asking you, take the time to think about what every decision leads to think about both sides of the health spectrum before you make a decision. And if the decision is made, make sure the male also has the mental help they need to get through it. Make sure you're there for them just as much as they're there for you. Thank you.